If you play as a healer in Final Fantasy XIV, I would like to emphatically sing your praises and commend your courage, because playing as a healer is not for the weak and certainly not for the cowardly. Hi, I'm Nerdy and I'm new to Final Fantasy XIV. In fact, I'm new to MMOs entirely, and I've just completed a Realm Reborn for the very first time, along with several other job classes, of which I've had an incredible time completing. But today we are talking about my time playing as a healer because, oh my. Welcome back, nerds, to the channel. I hope you're having a great day. Let's dive in. I have enjoyed every minute of Final Fantasy XIV: A Realm Reborn. It has challenged me as a gamer with its fast mechanics. It's revived me as a gamer who's been in a gamer drought for a very, very long time. Its story has moved me and often left me inspired with the writing throughout A Realm Reborn. It's even given me an amazing community of incredible friends, and honestly, I can go on and on and on about how amazing Final Fantasy XIV is, which, if you haven't seen my other video on A Realm Reborn, I highly recommend it, so go watch it after this video. Overall, Final Fantasy XIV has been something I get to play instead of have to play, which, if you've ever been in a gamer drought, you will know exactly what I mean by that. All of the classes that I have played in Final Fantasy XIV have been so incredibly fun. Some tougher than others, but nonetheless very fun to use and ultimately extremely rewarding. I was so excited to start the White Mage storyline and be a support to other players. I'm a huge fan of Final Fantasy X's take on the healer class, with Yuna being both a summoner and a healer, which I always thought was so freaking cool how they balanced that role out in that game. So, with that same excitement and the same equal passion, I head to Gridania to become a White Mage. But playing as a healer in Final Fantasy XIV was different, and oh my, was I caught off guard in so many ways. There's an amazing quote from Rhea Osina in Final Fantasy XIV, which reads, "Under no circumstances must you allow your anger and fear to overcome you. As practitioners of white magic, the magic of succor and solace, such emotions are anathema to our very existence." And it's here where I feel I failed the most, as I felt both anger and fear, especially in dungeons as a white mage in this game. Now, don't get me wrong, playing as a white mage in Final Fantasy XIV isn't bad. In fact, getting to level 50 felt like a very big accomplishment. I actually loved the spells you obtain in this class, and how it is entwined with the story, and how we learn that aether and nature correspond to each other. I love that in Final Fantasy XIV, playing as a white mage doesn't mean you are left without offensive abilities. In fact, seeing spells like Arrow and Stone being assigned to a healing class was actually very cool, and in many ways reminded me of the balance in Final Fantasy X with Yuna and her ability to summon. However, all of these wonderful things began to fade from my recollect as I was repeatedly humbled while playing as this class. With other classes, I would queue up for a dungeon and feel a sense of excitement and even confidence, but as a white mage, I truly felt nothing but dread. There is tremendous pressure to not screw up, because as a white mage, you are the only thing keeping your party alive, and seeing your tank fall in battle is absolutely terrifying. Granted, I am a noob when it comes to Final Fantasy XIV and MMOs at large, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just a fact. I'm still a Sprout, and I actually wear that symbol with a lot of pride. I love how much attention you get as a Sprout. But if you've never played Final Fantasy XIV, I don't say all this to discourage you from playing as a healer. In fact, I would still suggest everyone try it at least once. In fact, there's a lot of pros to playing as a white mage, like queue times, for example, in the wonderful main story. Dungeon queues were almost instant. Even in non-peak hours, I was getting incredibly fast queue times, which was a major benefit. But to that point, healers have fast queue times because of their critical role in the party. Everyone needs a healer, and that necessity is felt when playing as one, especially in dungeons. And perhaps the reason why I was caught off guard while playing as a white mage was the difference in the main scenario job quests and the online dungeon plays. Playing through the white mage story was fun, and I actually got tons of enjoyment out of the storyline and the characters you meet as you navigate the plot. I really liked the big brother / big sister trope in the first half of the main scenario quest. It was a refreshing experience, especially just after grinding my way through the warrior quest line. But in the job quests, I felt the battles were actually fair and challenging, but never overly stressful. In fact, you get offensive spells from the start to provide your character with a nice balance of offensive and defensive abilities, and often had a backup healer joining you for those main scenario quests, so they were able to heal you while you focused on felling the enemy. But playing with a party and fighting your way through a dungeon instance literally raised my heart rate. I was blindsided by the pressures of playing white mage once I unlocked Sastasha at level 15, because I had played Sastasha like 100 times before as different classes, but never really appreciated just how much my healer was doing until I was in that role. Again, shout out to all of you white mages out there. I often would pre-type a party message asking the tank to go slow, that as soon as a dungeon instance started, I could immediately hit the send button in hopes of pre-explaining my likely failures and fumbles. Almost every party I was in was very welcoming despite my very frequent fumbling, which just speaks to the amazing Final Fantasy XIV community as a whole. Most of the time, the tank would pull slower and with less mobs, but sometimes the tank would choose to Cow-a-bunga, and oh my gosh, that was terrifying. Oh my god, I almost died! Playing white mage requires so much more focus than the other classes, merely because you are ensuring everyone's health is topped off while removing debuffs from your party, and while throwing in some offensive spells at the enemy, while also ensuring your own health is not too low, all the while ensuring you have proper placement on the battlefield while also dodging enemy AoEs. And in my case, because I'm still a noob, monitoring the chat bar, because often my party would be giving me advice and tips live as we're fighting a boss. Needless to say, it was an adrenaline ride playing as a white mage. There was one particular dungeon instance where I was playing white mage, where I was in a party that was being instructed by the tank to simply run past the mobs instead of killing them. I'm blindly following said advice, staying close to the tank and providing healing services. We actually ran through 3 very large sections of the dungeon without killing any enemies. Next thing I know, we're at the end boss, which at the time I was very thankful for, because that just means, okay, I don't have to keep being a healer, the dungeon's almost over. I start my rotations during the boss fight. I'm actually handling myself quite well, until I accidentally get caught in an AoE, which unfortunately folded me immediately. At this point, my jaw hits the floor as I watch in horror. The reality of what just happened is hitting me like a truck, and I'm seeing party members, their health is deteriorating. I start to panic, so I quickly respawn at the start and begin sprinting back to the boss chamber, completely forgetting that between me and my party lies 3 huge sections of undefeated mobs that are instantly aggroed by my presence. I'm yelling at myself, I'm saying very colorful words as I watch a party member's health bar reach 0 and die. I'm spamming apologies in the chat, trying to run past waves of undefeated mobs. Eventually, the entire party chat goes very quiet, and this right here was the moment that I would consider to be the most embarrassing gamer moment of my life. Afterwards, I sulkingly go to Limsa, where I meet up with some FC members and get some therapy from the trauma I just experienced and likely inflicted on the other party members. I think I actually took a break from the game for a little bit until I could muster up the courage to keep grinding to level 50 as a white mage. I do eventually finish the White Mage story in A Realm Reborn and obtain level 50, but quite literally by the skin of my teeth. I do eventually work up the courage to grind out enough dungeons to finish the main quest line and obtain the White Mage armor. I think I was so burnt out from the grind that I actually paid very little attention to the story text during the last few missions. I just know that I prayed at a bunch of monuments and then saved a tree and then was deemed worthy before being blessed and given some very cool armor. Again, I don't say this to discourage anyone from playing healer in Final Fantasy XIV or MMOs in general. I actually say all this to express unending gratitude to all the white mages out there. I never truly appreciated all that you do until now, and have even deeper respect for those of you who willingly play as healer as their main job. Overall, I would say playing as a white mage was still very beneficial and taught me a lot about playing MMOs, and I would absolutely grind to level 50 again, even if it's just for the story. And all that I shared today is literally just my experience, and granted, a very noob experience, right? I'm still very new to this genre of games, and I just want to reiterate how thankful I am to be part of this amazing Final Fantasy XIV community that I have become part of, and am continually impressed by the kindness and support all of you offer. So please feel free to leave your tips and suggestions in the comments, and remember that yes, I am still a noob, but I would love any advice that you may have. All that being said, be sure to send your healers some love today. They are the backbones to our success, and we would literally be piles of ash without them. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe and send this video to your grandma. Until next time, stay nerdy. Bye-bye.